What is going on, guys? Welcome to Hugo Build. Basement part 2 is in the work. For the meantime, this is just a small video to go over the soundproofing strategy because it came to my attention that I really didn't explain it properly in the first video. It's not clear for everyone what resilient channels actually are. The first thing we have to understand, and I'll go over this super briefly, is how sound travels. There's two types of sounds. There's high frequency sounds like voices and music, and then there's a low frequency like footsteps and bass. You have to tackle those two types of sounds with two different ways. So the first type of sound, the high frequency, we put in the roxul insulation. All soft materials will absorb high frequency sounds like speech. The second is low frequency sounds like footsteps. Those actually travel through the mass of the floor, so into the floor joists and into the drywall and into the walls, and they kind of resonate in the room below. If you take a look at the assembly of our floor, you'll see that starting from the top, we have our finished floor that you've seen us install upstairs. Under that, we have a thin sheet of building paper, and that's just to stop any moisture. It doesn't contribute to the sound dampening at all. Under that, we have our OSB subfloor, which is tongue and groove OSB that's glued to the top of the joist and nailed. And the glue adds a little bit of dampening so that we don't hear squeaks in the floors. Following that, we have our floor joists, and these are nominal 12-inch joists. I think they're 11 3/4 or something like that, and that is a wooden eye joist. So it has a top and bottom that's a 2x3, and then an inner web that's just a 1/2-inch OSB. That would be fine for an unfinished basement. You can leave it as is. What we added for the basement soundproofing is we added the roxul in that cavity in between the joists, so that will absorb all the high frequency sounds, hopefully. And then when we put in the resilient channels that are also known as Z-Girts, so essentially this is a type of furring strip, or strapping as it's sometimes called. I've also called it Z-Girts, and that's because of the actual profile of the metal channel. And what you see here is that this Z profile is actually attached to the underside of the joist with two drywall screws, but one side of it remains unattached, or remains decoupled from the floor. So what we're trying to do is that all the footsteps that are on the ground will essentially go down and won't get fully transferred to the ceiling assembly below, which is the 2 layers of 5/8 drywall. And what that does is that adds a big mass, so that'll stop sounds from below, and it'll stop sounds from above traveling down, and whatever sounds, bass sounds, low frequency sounds, actually travel through the floor should go through the floor and into that resilient channel, and then kind of micro vibrations will actually just absorb that sound rather than solidly transmit it through into the drywall where you could hear it below. Now, I'm no sound engineer. I've only done my research on the details. I will let you know how everything turns out once we're done, but that should give you a pretty good idea of our sound insulation strategy. Anyways, stay tuned for part 2. If you've liked this small educational video on soundproofing, please click the like button, hit that little bell, and subscribe. It really helps out this channel. And stay tuned for part 2 of the basement rental. That's coming real soon.